Get cool stuff for what you were going to do anyway. Drink beer. With Buy Beer, Get Gear from Labatt, you can just snap a photo of your receipt and upload it to the website to rack up points for exclusive merch. Get points for every purchase, whether you're grabbing a pint on draft, a case for a party, or a tall boy at the stadium. Any size, any product, anywhere you buy Labatt. Buy beer, get gear. Sign up now at rewards.labattusa.com.
Congrats, I got you in, baby.
This is entertainment. People pay to watch this.
Pass to a cutting Hiltz. He darts in.
Whoa! People actually subscribe.
All across central New York.
Time expired! Syracuse has done it!
It's Drive Time with your host, Tim Leonard.
Hey, guess what? I'm getting wild, hey!
We welcome you into Drive Time. Took yesterday off, but we are back, and we've got a ton to discuss on the show today. Wasn't planning on taking yesterday off. We can blame Paulie for that. I was at the Dome. We were thinking, we're going to do the show live from the Dome. Weren't ready to do that, but hopefully we'll figure that out for future ones down the road. That just means that we have to cram in a whole bunch of Syracuse athletics talk today on the show. Our conversation that we taped yesterday with Adam Terry for today is now going to run today after I thought it was going to run yesterday. We'll get to a conversation with Adam Terry, his thoughts on the quarterback situation, his thoughts on what Fran Brown said on Orange Nation yesterday that started this whole thing. Remember, if you were listening to the show on Monday, I said I wouldn't be shocked if Fran Brown goes to a different quarterback this week. Now, boy, I would be shocked if Ricky Collins starts on Friday night. If he starts tomorrow night, then that would shock me at this point. We'll get into my thoughts on the quarterback situation, what to make of the chances of Ricky playing, of Luke Carney. Will it be Joe Filardi? More smoke out there about Joe Filardi today. We'll play back some of the comments from SiriusXM show, Dusty and Danny. Dusty Dvorak dropping Joe Filardi's name. Said that Fran Brown gave him a little hint last week before he was on the call of the game that it could be Joe Filardi is the name that Fran sort of mentioned but didn't mention last week. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow night? Halloween inside the Dome, UNC, Bill Belichick. This is a game that a lot of people had circled on their calendars, and now we look at it and it's kind of a funny situation. Two teams that come in on 4-game losing streaks. UNC has been playing better of late, but UNC has had a dreadful first year under Bill Belichick. Then you've got Syracuse that seems to be ready to turn the table over and present something different at the quarterback position. Whether that is going to work or not, I don't really know. And feel free to call in if you have takes on this. I know all of you out there seem to know every single backup quarterback strengths and weaknesses. And we've gone through quite the year of predicting what the backup quarterbacks are going to do and going through high school tape and high school stats. And man, this is going to be a funny year to look back on when we think, is Joe Filardi really going to come in the game tomorrow? Is he going to start maybe tomorrow? And if you would have told us going into this season, where is Joe Filardi on the quarterback depth chart? I didn't know if Joe Filardi really as more than a lacrosse player going into this season. I call all the Syracuse men's lacrosse games, and I was very excited about Joe Filardi being a freshman on the lacrosse team because he's a top 50 recruit in the inside lacrosse rankings. I think he's number 52 in the class. He's one of the bigger commits for Gary Gate in the upcoming class. And I knew he was a two-sport athlete, of course. I knew he was a quarterback on the football team. That was kind of a nice side story to him being a good lacrosse player. Well, now Fran Brown's seemingly talking about him as the quarterback that he thinks could be better than anyone else besides Steve Angeli, of course, in the quarterback room right now. And maybe we will see Joe Filardi for the first time tomorrow night. And what are we going to get out of the quarterback position tomorrow? Fran has said multiple QBs will play. Does that mean Ricky factors in? Does that mean Luke Carney factors in? Will Luke Carney be just a runner tomorrow? Will he be a passer? There are a lot of unanswered questions right now. And we welcome your thoughts at 315-437-7644. for ESPN 44. We'll get Adam Terry's thoughts on the quarterback situation in a little bit, but phone lines are open. We can get to Adam whenever we see fit today because I did tape that interview yesterday, and then we didn't do the show yesterday. Again, blame Paulie for that. But we're back today, and that just means we have way more to discuss today. I do want to start the show and dive into our Burdick BMW of Cicero opening drive by talking about the basketball game last night, which I haven't mentioned until this very second of the show. And it was not a whole lot of fun to watch that first half against Pace out of the Division II ranks last night for Syracuse. They had a 2-point lead at halftime. And yeah, I was not feeling great about the state of Syracuse basketball at halftime. After the second half, I'm still not really feeling great, if I'm being honest. And after the 2 exhibition games, I don't know. I was expecting a little bit more. I'm not obviously going to overreact too much to exhibition games where they're mixing in different lineups. And I don't really think we should change our overall opinion of how the season is going to go just yet. But I do want to see something against Binghamton. I'm definitely going to be a little more on edge going into that Binghamton game. I don't want to see a repeat of last year. And last 2 games, the exhibition games, have felt a little bit like last year, unfortunately. First half yesterday was tough. They could not get out in transition, and the half-court offense looked very stagnant. And honestly, the game plan in the second half was pretty clear. It was pretty obvious that Syracuse could get some separation in the second half against a team that starts its tallest player at 6'6" by just going inside. And that's exactly what they did in the second half. And it's good to see Donnie Freeman have a big game. We've kind of been waiting for Donnie Freeman to dominate a game, and he hasn't really played in a lot of college games because of the injury last year. But Donnie Freeman going for 22 points and 9 rebounds is kind of what he should be doing against a team that starts their tallest player at 6'6". And I don't know if really the second half encouraged me that much because it was sort of just Syracuse exerting their will down low. So I still have a lot of question marks about this team, and I am not hitting the panic button or anything, but I didn't love what I saw last night, and I really didn't love what I saw to a lesser extent on Saturday evening against Buffalo. The second half Saturday against Buffalo into the first half against Pace was just not great energy and not what you want to see at this point in the season. And I feel comfortable saying that because Adrian Autry said as much. I don't think that is what the product has been in practice for Syracuse basketball, what we saw last night. I think it's pretty clear they came out and they did not play with the right purpose and energy from the jump. So let's get into my 3 big takeaways from basketball last night. We'll work in your phone calls throughout the show today. And, of course, we will talk a good bit about the quarterback situation, make my prediction for the football game tomorrow against UNC. But our Burdick BMW of Cicero opening drive, we begin with our 3 takeaways from hoops last night.
Number 1.
Most concerning thing for me last night was the play of the backcourt. The starting backcourt that we had very high hopes for. All-ACC second-teamer J.J. Starling, potentially an All-ACC guy in Nathan George. And honestly, more specifically, Starling wasn't great last night, but we kind of know Starling is a good player in a Syracuse uniform, and you could say he's maybe a little overrated, whatever, but we know Starling is someone that can be productive. And I'm worried about JJ's free throw shooting. That seems to have gotten worse, but I'm more worried about Nathan George. Nathan George, in these first 2 exhibition games, there were some really nice moments against Buffalo, and I was complimentary of his play, and I do think he has a much higher floor at the point guard position. There we go, talking ceilings and floors again. He has a much higher floor than what we saw at the point guard position last year in Jaquan Carlos because he's 6'3", and because he's a guy that has already proven it at the ACC level for Georgia Tech. But I don't know if it's him not being comfortable in the system yet. I don't know if he's just nervous because he's got family going to the games and it's a new environment and he was kind of an underrated recruit and all of a sudden he's playing on a big stage for Syracuse and this is a different deal for him. It wasn't like he was some huge high school kid. mean, he was a very good high school player, of course, but it wasn't like he was in the limelight all the time. He just has seemed very timid to me. And when you look at his numbers, he's gotten to the free throw line, and he's like the one guy that has made free throws. Free throw shooting last night was abysmal. But he's 1 for 9 from the floor in 2 exhibition games against a low-end Division I team in Buffalo and a Division II team in Pace. And he put up some tough shots from three-point range last night. I really cannot recall Nathan George attempting a shot by the rim in the 2 exhibition games so far. And I know he's not supposed to be a main scorer, really. He's supposed to be more of the passer and the distributor and the guy that gets everyone else involved. And that's the role that he wants to fill. But he's looked okay on defense against bad competition. And he just hasn't really been effective on offense to the extent that I would have guessed to this point. So I'm not saying Nathan George is going to be Jaquan Carlos 2.0, but we went into this year and we've talked so much in the offseason about how Nathan George is night and day compared to Jaquan Carlos. Carlos looked good in the exhibitions last year. George really has not looked great in these exhibition games. And there's a lot riding on Nathan George being the guy that they need him to be at the point guard position. I don't feel great about what they have in terms of the backup point guard. I really was counting on George to be a scorer and a great passer and potentially an all-ACC guy for this team to reach its ceiling. I don't know if I'm changing too much on what my expectations are for the floor of Nathan George, but I think we might have to reevaluate his ceiling a little bit. I know it's early. I know it's just 2 exhibition games, different lineups. I just have not liked what I've seen from him as a shot creator. I mean, he didn't get to the rim at all last night. He was kind of settling. I just would have expected more from Nathan George, I guess. And I don't think that's unfair to say right now. And that's my biggest concern from an individual player standpoint after the exhibition slate.
Number 2.
Second takeaway from the game last night is, are we sure this is a improved three-point shooting team? That was concerning. They did not make hardly any jump shots in the second half. Again, it was kind of going down low to the bigs. Sadiq White looked really good. That was a positive takeaway. William Kyle had some nice minutes. Akir Soare gave you some good energy off the bench, and Coach Autry shouted him out. Donnie Freeman, we mentioned, was dominant. But Syracuse wasn't able to really make any jump shots against the Division II Pace team. They were 5 for 21 from 3 after Coach Autry said once again, and we've heard Coach Autry say something similar about his first 3 teams, that he wants them to shoot more threes. They can make threes. This is a good three-point shooting team. Didn't pan out last year. And so much of what Syracuse does in practice is trying to set up dribble penetration and kick for three-point shooters. Well, against physical teams, they just have not gotten dribble penetration in the Coach Autry era, really. And the three-point shots aren't as open as you would hope them to be. And a lot of what they work on in practice is getting out in transition and getting it to three-point shooters in transition. They didn't get out in transition last night because they didn't get stops for a lot of that game. And even when they did, it's just not, they haven't been able to play to that style that Coach Autry has talked about ever since he became the head coach, which is up-tempo, making threes in transition, being an active team in terms of your energy on the defensive end. We haven't really seen that yet. And I know that it's early and I know it's a new team, but I thought it was concerning that they only made 5 threes last night. Sadiq White made 2 of them. I never would have guessed that. J.J. Starling hasn't been great from three-point range. It doesn't seem like his shot is majorly improved. Nathan George, we talked about. And then the free throw shooting. I mean, if you're such a good three-point shooting team, you should be able to make some free throws, and they were 14 for 28 from the line last night.
Number 3.
Final takeaway here from basketball, then we'll open up the phone lines, get into our conversation on the football QBs and what we might expect from the quarterback position tomorrow night. Also, we will chat with Adam Terry at some point over the course of our hour with you tonight. Final takeaway, I really don't think they need to play these type of opponents in these type of games anymore. Everyone around the country is stepping up in competition. I don't love the way that Syracuse put together their schedule this year. I feel like are going to fall into the trap of what they have in recent years, where when Houston comes and it's that first big game against Houston, I think it's going to smack them in the face, and it's going to be a major step up in competition from what they've had. And I'm kind of tired of that first big game being very underwhelming. Non-conference games are really important now. The ACC has not been good, and you can play yourself out of the conversation by having a tough non-conference slate or not coming out of the non-con with any good wins. And right now, I don't have a lot of confidence that Syracuse is going to pick off a notable win in their non-conference schedule. I think they should have played teams that were more in like their peer group, or maybe in the 50 to 80 range in the net rankings in the non-con. It seems like they have gone about it the other way, and they're almost like punting on the non-conference and trying to set them up so that when they do go into ACC play, they're not out of it and they're growing as a team, and then they can bag some wins in league play. But gosh, the ACC better be a lot better if that is your strategy. And the ACC schedule the Orange have is tough. And they play a lot of the good teams on the road. So they're going to have some more opportunities than normal maybe for quad one wins in ACC play. But I don't know. I would have played someone, especially when it doesn't count. What do you have to lose? Bring in someone like these other teams are doing and sell some more tickets, make it a better experience, learn more about your team. I think the counter argument to that is they want to run up the score because of their net ranking on the likes of Binghamton and Mercyhurst and all these teams they're playing. So they feel like you don't have as much time to experiment with lineups once the season starts as you used to, because you have to keep in mind margin of victory nowadays. So they use these games for experimentation, and I understand that. I don't want Houston to hit them upside the head. I don't want Syracuse to look blindsided by their first major game against a non-conference opponent, because we've seen that too much lately. And I don't want another year where they come out of the non-con and everything's fizzled and they don't have a marquee win. It's pretty simple. In the ACC, you've got to take advantage of the non-conference schedule. Even if the ACC is better, it's not going to be leaps and bounds better to the point where you can get away with just sort of skating and cruising by the non-conference slate and beating the likes of, Drexel as your best win. Now, that third game in Vegas, that might be an opportunity of the type of game that I'm talking about. So hopefully that pans out. But a lot of pressure is on that third game in Vegas based on how they laid out the schedule. We'll hit a timeout. Phone lines are open at 315-437-7644. We're off and running on Drive Time. You're listening to it on ESPN Radio, QSportsTalk.com.
Burdick Toyota.
What's up, chat? Missed you guys yesterday. We're blaming Paulie. Oh, man. Oh, that's massive. That is actually huge. No Crunch Weekly tonight, folks. We have free reins to go long if we want to. Yes, I was late for work by 24 hours. Again, we're blaming Paulie. Yeah, Filardi's dad was a great player at Penn State. Were the trolls out and about in Orange Nation? Yeah, Lukey, look, I hear you. If he doesn't work out at Syracuse, again, we've said it. This team has talent. The excuses are out the window. I'm not saying fire Red. Just saying, thought the exhibition slate would go better. I think we can all admit that. If you would have told, let's be honest, if you would have asked every one of us going into Buffalo and Pace, hey, predict the scores. And I'm not saying the score means everything, but just, our general feeling of the team coming out of those games. I was pretty optimistic with the talent on the roster. They would beat Buffalo by like 20, and then they beat Pace by about 20, which they pretty much did in the end. But I didn't think they'd be in the game at halftime against either of them. I didn't think they'd be in the game against Buffalo down the stretch. Yeah, and the effort is just, I don't know. I mean, first game of the year at the Dome, I get the atmosphere there wasn't great, and I get it's tough to get up for pace, but that kind of goes back to just stop playing pace then. Like, let's get something out of these games. Not going to go check out the potential Luke Carney, Joe Filardi, Ricky Collins 3-quarterback system. Not saying that's going to happen. That'd be something. Yeah, I mean, I think the first line change was because he was upset, Govendo, at how the team started, energy-wise. It's just got to be killing red. I mean, I think they've worked on a lot of stuff defensively in practice, and it's just, it did not look great last night. I think he said as much that that's not who we are right now, and that really disappointed him. Yeah, as he should have been. Yeah, I miss the days of Syracuse getting steals and getting out in transition. We were promised those days were coming. Yeah, I think we all are rooting for Red. How could you not? Red's the nicest guy. You know, I think we're all in agreement that he's a good coach, and, well, I guess I shouldn't say that, but he's a smart basketball mind, and he's a great guy, and he's trying like heck, and all those things are true, but that was a tough one last night. I know they won, and I know it doesn't really matter, but it was tough. I mean, they got to play better than that if they want to win games and be what they want to be this year.
1440 AM. ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com.
We roll along with Drive Time. Phone lines are open as we get you ready for Syracuse and UNC tomorrow night on the football field. Also reacting to basketball. Lots to discuss on the show this afternoon. 315-437-7644. Feel free to call in if you have thoughts on Orange football, Orange basketball. We'll chat with Adam Terry here in just a little bit, get his thoughts on the quarterback situation. Oh, right before I was about to go to the phone lines, I think they've disappeared on me. I thought we had Dave in Syracuse. So Dave, if it disconnected, I think he's going to try and call back. So we'll get to Dave here in just a second. That was like spooky. Talk about Halloween spooky season. I mean, it was as if when my hand was going to touch it, it sensed that the alarms went off and we had to kick Dave off the line. We've got Dave back now, though. So I don't know what happened there, Dave, but I appreciate you calling back. And what's on your mind?
No worries, Tim. It's not a perfect world.
Well said.
Yeah, hey, my biggest frustration last night, and I found myself sitting in my seat last night in the crowd screaming over and over at, was the one thing I thought would really improve this year would be the rim protection. And in the first, I saw pace time after time after time get to the rim with an unchallenged layup. And I'm like, this just cannot happen against a team like this. And I thought the biggest offender was Donnie Freeman when he was in there at center. But both him and Kyle were not helping and not challenging, at least changing shots. And it just drove me crazy to see that. And my thinking, Tim, is if obviously we want to have Donnie Freeman on the floor for most of the time, and now we think we want Sadiq White on the floor for quite a bit of time. That third guy up front has to be a shooter. So that means Donnie is going to have to play some center. And I really expect more out of him. He's going to be the guy that we think he is, going to have to play some serious defense, too. We have to get a lot better at protecting the rim, stopping teams like Pace, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Getting uncontested and unchallenged layups.
I agree with you, Dave. And Coach Saddlein was doing the game with me on the radio side of things. He brought up that very point. He was saying, I thought there was more rim protection on this year's team. And I think one thing that he was hitting on a lot, and I agree with him, the help defense is late or it's not coming at all. So it's one thing to give up dribble penetration, and I think we saw too much of that for sure in the game against Pace, and it's concerning if Pace is going to the rack that easily against Syracuse. It did feel a little bit like early season last year where we were all blown away by how easy Lemoyne was getting to the basket against Syracuse. But if you give up that dribble penetration, you've got to have that help defender ready to come over. And the help defender has not been there as much as you would like in the last couple years for Syracuse basketball. So I think Red was really disappointed because I do think they've spent a ton of time as a coaching staff trying to figure out how to avoid those type of scenarios that we saw a lot of last year. And they have the athleticism and the versatility and the switchability on paper to do some different stuff defensively, to hard hedge and get creative in how they want to cover ball screens, things like that. Well, it didn't look all that different last night. So I'll take Red's word for it, and I agree with him that I think they're doing a better job in practice. From the little I've seen, I think they are a better defensive team than they were last year, and they will get there, and it's still early. But I think Red phrased it well in his presser last night. He said, that's not the team we are. And it's got to be really frustrating for him because they've spent a lot of time on that, and it felt a lot like last night. So is that just because it's Pace, it's a Division II team, and they can kind of give you fits, and the guys didn't get up for it? Not that that's excusable, but I guess that'd be better. I mean, put it this way, I think we're all hoping to see a much better product against Binghamton, and as I said, I think we're all a little more on edge going into the Binghamton game because that wasn't great last night on both ends of the court. There's no real way to sugarcoat it. I know they ended up winning in the second half, but and Dave's right. It feels weird to pick on Donnie. Donnie had a statistically great game, but that's what Donnie should be against a team in Pace that is out of the Division II ranks. So Donnie's still got to get better defensively. A lot of guys got to get better defensively. JJ was not great defensively last night and seemed kind of lost sometimes. So the defense is, I think, the thing that we talked a lot about the offense in the first segment. The defense is still the thing that they need to improve on the most, and that's the biggest concern as we head into the real season. Let's keep the phone calls coming. Let's check in with Mark in New York City who wants to talk some football. What's up, Mark?
Hey, Tim. Yeah, I just wanted to transition over to football a little bit, just about actually going back to the whole Penn State Fran Brown discussion.
Oh, boy. Okay.
A couple weeks ago, I think on the Tim Leonard radar, you were like 80 to 90% confident Fran was coming back. I'm just curious with this Matt Rule extension. Did that 80 to 90% change at all? Or are you staying firm on that? You know, I know Fran hasn't had a great record this year, but, you know, Penn State has seen what he can do with a quarterback. So I'm just curious where the Matt Rule extension falls on your radar.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think my percentage has changed really from 80 to 90% that Fran is coming back. I think we've said it, and the best way to kind of answer any question about Fran Brown right now is this was a pretty tough year for Fran Brown if he did want to go on to a bigger and better job, and I don't know that. But he's got Jimmy Sexton as his agent, and Jimmy Sexton is going to make a whole lot of money this year with how Lane Kiffin is looking, and I believe Kurt Cignetti is already one of his clients, and he's basically like the Boris of college football. So he's got all the big names, and he will negotiate with the best of them, and he will drive up the price with the best of them. And this is the type of year where if you were a coach that maybe in other years was not quite ready to take that leap to a big school, you might have been able to do it this year because of how many jobs are out there. And I mean, it seems like Penn State is now thinking about a Bob Chesney, which is someone that I never thought would have gone from James Madison to Penn State. And it's not like he's been at James Madison for long enough or done an unbelievable job at James Madison that he is beating down the door of Penn State. Penn State is probably not going to end up with as big of a name as they thought when they started this. I don't think Matt Rule's going there clearly. I don't think Kurt Cignetti's going there clearly. Those were the top two names. They brought up Marcus Freeman. I doubt he's going anywhere near Penn State. Penn State's probably going to end up with a coach maybe from like a Summerall type from Tulane, and I don't necessarily think him because he's probably headed for an SEC school. He's a Southern guy, but I'm just saying like somewhere in that range kind of. I think all these jobs are not going to be as big a name coach as the fan base is expecting. I think they're all going to try for the Nick Saban, the Urban Meyer, stuff like that. It seems like this would have been a really good year if Fran did go 8-4 with Steve Angeli and he did want to leave for a bigger job. It was there for him. And at the very least, the extension would have been definitely on the table. And Jimmy Sexton would have definitely tried to eke out some more money from Syracuse. Maybe he still does that. But based on where Fran is right now, based on where Syracuse is right now, I said I thought it'd be a reach for Penn State even before they lost some more games. It's not trending well for Fran Brown and Syracuse right now to the point where I just don't think Penn State's fan base would be very pleased. But I don't think they're going to be very pleased with whoever they get. Because to Mark's point, some of these top dogs are falling off. We'll hit a timeout. We'll get to our conversation with Adam Terry after this break here. His thoughts on the quarterback situation. That's next on Drive Time.
This is
Jeff Brom. Yeah, I mean, that's Manny Diaz. I don't know. Brian Hartline's interesting, Nikki. I mean, I think the thing to consider with that is if you're coaching, which he is an OC, obviously, but if you're in the college football playoff, you know, we saw Fran as the DB coach. That's kind of different. Like Kurt Cignetti, it was brought up. He's obviously going to be the Indiana coach this year. They're obviously going to be in the college football playoff. Would he have actually been able to jump to Penn State and fit their timeline of transfer portal window now just ending? I think it's January 12th when there could still be games. Kind of a tough situation. I did hear Gomez's interview with Fran. Yep. We'll get into my thoughts definitely in a little bit on the quarterback situation, but I think it's very obvious to me that Ricky is not starting, and that's pretty much a lock in my mind. And then from there, it becomes a conversation of, well, who could they play? Will they play multiple guys? That seems likely. How good will these guys be? What will the packages be for them? As I said, still a lot of unanswered questions, and I know Matt Park came on Orange. I know a lot of people have said, like, maybe they go back to Ricky. That's possible because I don't really think they feel great about going to Luke Carney or going to Joe Filardi or going to someone else. But I don't really see them going back to Ricky. I think Ricky's probably played his last snap for Syracuse football. Maybe injury, I guess. I think, though, Philly's most wanted, like, yeah, we now know Ricky didn't improve. I think they gave him a long leash, though, partially because these other options probably aren't great either. Like, I'm not expecting them to come in and just tear it up. But I do think they're looking for someone that can just display some more confidence at the quarterback position right now. And Ricky gave you none of that, really. I mean, he just seemed a little anxious, and he just couldn't take it from the practice field to the game field. Chip Kelly, I mean, that'd be crazy. I don't know. I don't know who Penn State's going to get. Who's LSU going to get? I mean, there's so many jobs. San Diego Keys, I mean, that's all we can do is be half full or hopeful, right? But It's the same way we thought Ricky could be functional. We don't really know, you know? We're not at practice. I mean, I know you guys are probably tired of hearing that. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I thought Ricky was going to be better. I said that from the start. I also would have guessed he would get better over. I mean, he just didn't show really any improvement. And I think it's right to be surprised by that because just keep in mind, like going into the season, we would have thought Ricky was like miles ahead of Luke Carney and miles ahead of Joe. I mean, Joe Filardi wasn't on our mind. So you got to kind of give him a runway a little bit just because he does have a good arm and he does have talent. But I think I'm surprised and the coaching staff is surprised by how little he improved. And could Fran have made the move a little earlier? Maybe, but I don't think they were winning. I just, we'll see. Like when Carney or Filardi or whoever plays tomorrow night, maybe they will be a little bit of a spark or a different look. I'm just not overly optimistic that this is them like going to something that they're 1,000% confident in. I just think this is them saying it can't get any worse, and we owe it to everyone on the team to try something else. I hear you, Philly's most wanted. I mean, I can understand the argument that maybe the writing was on the wall more with Ricky, and maybe I should have given that more credit. Just, you know, I was taking Fran for his word and Nunzio Campanelli for his word, and everyone around the team was raving about his talent. It just didn't translate. I mean, he just couldn't put it in the game. Welcome back into Drive Time. Plenty to discuss on the show today. We talked a lot of Orange basketball. We'll get into my thoughts on the quarterback situation, a little bit of a prediction for tomorrow's game, who we might see at quarterback to start. Will we see multiple quarterbacks? We'll discuss all that in due time on the show. Right now, I do want to work in my conversation from yesterday that we taped with Adam Terry. So keyword being yesterday. This is still very relevant. It's still after Fran Brown made his comments on Orange Nation, so we'll get Adam's thoughts on that. There was one more comment today that we can play at some point from the Sirius XM show that sort of hinted at more Joe Filardi smoke, maybe, that he could be a guy that factors in tomorrow. But Adam and I do discuss Joe Filardi, and we had seen hints and heard the tea leaves and the breadcrumbs on Joe Filardi even before that. So we'll get into a whole bunch on the quarterback situation here, but just full disclosure, this was recorded yesterday. So here we go. Here's my conversation with Adam Terry. Our weekly visit with Adam Terry here, who will be on the call on the Syracuse Sports Network from Learfield for the Friday night game, Halloween night against UNC. Adam and I will be out on the quad, and I think it's going to be very chilly out on the quad, so make sure you pack accordingly, Adam. Let's dive right into the comments that Fran Brown made on Orange Nation earlier today with Stephen Pauly that are kind of making the rounds. He was very honest about the situation at quarterback and how it is an open competition right now at the quarterback position. You got a chance to hear the comments. What was your reaction to Fran being that honest and your take on what Fran said on Orange Nation?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have to appreciate the honesty of Fran, right? Like, he's not a guy that's going to hide behind anything, give you coach speak. You know, he's there to win. He's there to put the best product out on the field. And to me, that's where this shift starts to come is, you know, as much as you want to get one guy experience in Ricky Collins and have him go out there and be successful, you also have to manage all of the other personalities within the locker room and be able to win football games, right? Like, the objective the rest of the year is win enough games to get you into a bowl. And then that gives you 15 extra bowl practices, and you can get better. Now, it seems as though the sample size and what he said, you know, I gave Steve 4 games before the injury. He goes 3-1. We give Ricky Collins 4 games. He goes 0-4. And now it's time for a change. And who that goes to, you know, I have some ideas with who it is and who it's not. But it's it's another shift in the program into, hey, we put you in a position to succeed, right? And that's, I think, where everybody's starting to come from and saying, we want the best for all of our players. But with that being said, in order to get the best and give the best to the players, sometimes you have to make difficult choices, and I think that's where Brandon is going into the last third of the season.
We've seen Luke Carney be out there as the backup in certain situations. For example, the first time Ricky came in the game against Colgate, he loses his helmet. Luke Carney was QB3 at that moment. He comes in for one play. Luke Carney has played 2 games. The other one we all know about when things weren't going well against Pittsburgh. He started the second half, and we've heard Fran talk about Luke Carney. It feels like if they do make the decision to go to Luke Carney, he's more of a run package, run-oriented quarterback. Before we get into maybe who else it could be or other ways to handle the quarterback situation, what's your reaction to, let's say they go to Luke Carney and it's UNC on the other side, and UNC has been pretty good at stopping the run. They're not a great football team, but it seems like they have been pretty good at stopping the run in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that's the direction, right?
Yeah.
And as we've seen in this offense, Jeff Nixon wants to be able to establish the run game with the running backs, and if we're going to get to the outside, establish that by throwing the ball to the perimeter and allowing either that, whether that's Will Nixon getting out in the perimeter or whether it's a bubble to make sure that you can get out to the perimeter. I don't necessarily see that being in the offense at the quarterback position. If so, right, I think we would have seen a lot more of that with a guy like Ricky Collins, who showed his elusiveness against Georgia Tech and how he was able to move around. But I think if I were the staff and I want to get back into it, I'm going to find the best passer that I currently have on my roster.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that is Luke Carney. Not that I know enough or I'm at every practice like the coaching staff in terms of the quarterback situation right now. But Fran hinted last week that there's someone else in the quarterback room that he feels might be better than all of them someday. And we are at a point now where there's 4 regular season games left, so you're not necessarily burning the red shirt unless I guess you want to play him in a potential bowl game. Do you feel like that factors into the decision, too, that we might see someone else that we haven't seen yet, whether it's Joe Filardi, Rich Beelan, anyone else that is in the conversation there beyond Luke Carney because of that scholarship rule and that there is just 4 regular season games left?
Hell, if we're going to a bowl game, that quarterback did something.
Yeah, right.
So in that opportunity, you're going to burn that red shirt. You're going to go and you're going to try to win that bowl game and then have a winning record going into your 3rd season, right? So 2 back-to-back winning records, and then you catapult that into what seems to be a great recruiting class. You're going to hit the portal. You're going to get Angeli back. And if that quarterback was any good, which, I mean, I'm going to throw the name out that I think it's going to be, and that's Filardi.
Yeah.
When you start to look at some of that stuff, hell, if you burn his red shirt, you're great. Fantastic. You did a great job. And then you go about your business. And I think that's what it is right now is get somebody in there that can move the ball up and down the field, manage the clock, and then just distribute the ball. I think 60% passing, you don't have to take the world by storm, but in order to keep this offense going, it's going to be predicated upon the pass. And as much as I wanted to say, let's get Yasin Willis, let's get Will Nixon, let's get whoever goes in at tailback, get them going, get them geared up and, rush for 150, 200 yards. The way that we've seen this offensive move and be most effective is having a good trigger man being able to distribute the ball.
You mentioned the name that comes to mind for you is Joe Filardi. I would agree with that as a guy that maybe we will see now going forward, given that Fran is saying it's an open competition at the quarterback position. Adam Terry is with us here, who calls all the games on the radio with Matt Park for the Syracuse Sports Network from Learfield. What do you make of what you've seen or what you've been able to glean from Joe Filardi's high school tape?
Well, I've only seen one game, and I put that on right before I got on here because I knew I was going to have to get asked a couple questions. But, it's hard to say, right? Like, you see decisiveness and getting the ball out and being efficient and comfortable within his system that he threw in high school. Now, with that being said, a little bit different caliber of athlete that you're going to have to throw the ball against. So, having the ability to distribute the football is going to be key. It's going to be paramount. Like, even if it's dink and dunk all the way down, but you keep the chains moving, we just got to put points up on the board. And in order to put points up on the board, you got to move up and down the field. And in order for the defense to be more successful, which I think when you step away from the game, I have felt good, right? Like the initial gut feel of like, hey, that defense did okay. But they're on the field, turnovers, the ability for that offense. For instance, Georgia Tech, it was very pedestrian of a game that I was watching, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, you look up at the scoreboard and you're like, damn. Like, okay, all right. Haynes King can move the ball up and down the field. And at the beginning of the game, it wasn't necessarily him, but towards the end of the game, if you're trying to climb into the Heisman race, you got to be able to run the football and throw it down the field as well. So I just feel as though if we can narrow down and focus and get the quarterback position, this is not a world beater that's going into quarterback, right? We thought Ricky Collins I shouldn't say that. The coaching staff thought that Ricky Collins was the best answer. We saw him go into the game. Luke Carney is in the mix. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw all three, to tell you the truth, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is where not being around and watching practices of that nature kind of leaves me a little bit up in the air. But also, just watching this offense, like you need a guy that can pull the trigger and get the ball out. And to me, that was a name that was thrown around later on for him to be a successful quarterback. But, just read tea leaves, and now I can throw that name into the mix of like, hey, we think he could be good. And this was, just conversation a while ago. But if that's the name that was thrown out, then, I don't think anybody has jumped that far significantly in front of anybody.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. All right, let's dive into the matchup against UNC a little bit. I know this is a fascinating team coming in with Bill Belichick and the up and downness to their season, mostly downness. I mean, they are on a 4-game losing streak as well, although UNC has been playing better football in the last 2 weeks. And their defense has been improved into the point where when you look at their numbers, bad offense for sure. With Gio Lopez at quarterback, he's struggled. Defense has been pretty average in the ACC, and they're coming off a good performance defensively against Virginia. What do you make of where UNC is at and what they do scheme-wise?
Well, I just think the psychology of teams, right? And if you're not doing as well, and this is just my personal experience being on teams, when you look at UNC, I believe that Bill Belichick's going to get them going, right? Like he's going to muster the energy, the vigor, the mentality to go out on the field. But it's also, you just played a great game against Virginia. You had them on the ropes. Is that the significant letdown that then starts to creep in and disseminate through the ranks of like, man, it's not our year. Okay, let's see how it goes. And I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case, but for Syracuse right now, they've just got to go out and jump on them early, right? Really, this was the recipe for me in the quote-unquote upset against Clemson was get out on them early, take the fan base out of there, and in our scenario, it's jump out on them early. Whatever the fan base is in the dome, it was beautiful and loud the other day, and hopefully it resembles that feel. People bought tickets when this was kind of a key matchup, and now that it's kind of degraded a little bit. But for Syracuse, just go out there, get on them early, get some confidence in whoever the quarterback is, get the defense going. Because when that defense gets going, it's energetic. One of my favorite things is to watch Nick Williams, the DN coach, just get out there, and his passion it definitely exudes throughout that whole sideline. And to me, you do that, you get after them early and try to put them away, right? Like, go after them. And So to get back to the point, it's that's my recipe for it, and I think that Syracuse has all of the weapons in order to do so.
Yeah, it'll be a fascinating matchup. Two teams that are very hungry for a win, and never thought we would see Bill Belichick inside the JMA Wireless Dome coaching against Fran Brown. It's going to be kind of weird just to see that, but hopefully it is a good crowd for the Halloween matchup Friday night, and I know we'll get you ready for it on the Learfield broadcast, Adam. Again, I think we're going to be outside and it's going to be chilly, so prepare yourself for that. But we appreciate you coming on.
I'm going to be definitely prepared, but just so everybody knows that you're the one that's handing out candy. I won't be.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, Adam. We'll talk to you on Friday night.
All right. See you then.
All right. That'll be tomorrow night. Adam, Terry, and I out on the quad, and there's going to be haunted houses and a whole bunch of fun stuff. And apparently I'm the candy giver-outer now. Fran Brown was saying he gives out large candy bars at his house, so I know he will not be at home tomorrow night for Halloween, but maybe you can check out Fran Brown's house and go get some full-size candy bars. That's only the best at the Fran Brown household. We'll hit a timeout. We got to get into my full prediction on the game tomorrow because we won't have drive time tomorrow since I will be out on the quad doing the pregame show for Learfield. So full prediction on the game tomorrow. That includes what I think is actually going to happen at the quarterback position tomorrow, my best guess right now on what will happen at the quarterback position, and what will they get out of a quarterback that is not Ricky Collins? Because I think we're all in agreement. It seems very unlikely that Ricky Collins is starting this game tomorrow. We'll dive into my full prediction for tomorrow's game. If you want to call in, we can go long tonight. Crunch Weekly is not on the air tonight. I know we always talk about we got to make this show 3 hours, 4 hours, 2 hours. We can go a little long if you want because wasn't on the air yesterday. Got a lot of thoughts. Wasn't on the air or won't be on the air tomorrow. So if you want to call in, 315-437-7644. Back after this on Drive Time. San Diego Cuse, I would say, and I'm not picking at you, but when have we ever pulled up a high school film and thought, for any player that's ever committed to Syracuse and thought like, he doesn't look that good. I mean, I'm not a guy that watches a ton of them, honestly, but Joe Filardi, the thing that I would say is like going into this year, everyone feels they know what these quarterbacks are all about and they have a better idea than the coaches, it seems like. And Joe Filardi was, I would have guessed QB6 going into the year. Maybe like QB4 or QB5. I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, Fran mentioned a couple weeks ago, someone asked him who's going to be QB2 now that it's Ricky Collins, and he was like, Luke Carney's there, but, it's a battle. We got Rich, we got Jakari. He didn't even mention Joe Filardi's name. Now we have catapulted him and, propped him up because it does seem like he's the guy, and I say that, I think it's still going to be a surprise to a large portion of the fan base when they see him trot out there if he does play tomorrow night. But, yeah, the high school tape, it does look good. I watched Joe Filardi's high school tape yesterday as well, and everyone, I don't know, Luke Carney's high school tape looks good too, but I'll believe it when I see it in terms of, I'm not saying they're going to be bad. I don't really have an opinion on any of these guys right now. It's just hard to really gather too much from a high school tape in my eyes. Oh, no. You're frozen, San Diego Cuse. Is that just San Diego Cuse? Yeah, a lot of people didn't even know Filardi existed. I mean, they still don't. Like I said, out of the however many 35, 40,000 fans there tomorrow night, how many people are going to be like, oh, yeah, Joe Filardi's coming in? Probably very little, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that go to the game that just go to the game for fun. I get that. But, yeah, that's the thing. Collins, all of us thought Collins was going to be good because he was in a close battle with Steve Angeli, and the coaches were talking good about him. The coaches are talking good about Joe Filardi, so that's formed our opinion on him. Coaches have talked good about Luke Carney. I just struggle, I don't know how we come to conclusions that the quarterback, I mean, if we're being honest, when Fran said last week, I think it was, there might be another quarterback that's not Luke or Ricky that is even better than everyone else. Did you guys actually think it was Joe Filardi when he said that, or did your mind go to Jakari Williams or Rich Beelan? Because our Twitter comments was like everyone saying Rich. And Steve said something today on Orange Nation where he was like, all our minds immediately went to Joe Filardi. I don't think that's true. I think everyone is now reading the tea leaves, and there's a lot of signs, and it's pretty obvious he meant Joe Filardi now. But that kind of shows you we don't really know. Like, we're not there at practice. I mean, I think all of our guesses would have been Jakari Williams or Rich before Joe Filardi, and it surprised most of us. Yeah, I wasn't. You phrased it perfectly fine, San Diego Cuse. I wasn't picking at you. I think we all go and watch the high school tape and get very excited about players, and I do the same thing, and I think it's easy to do that. Yeah, right, Philly's Most Wanted. I didn't see any Joe Filardi in our Twitter comments or social media comments. So I guess what I'm saying is, if I didn't think Joe Filardi was going to be good going into this year, why would I think he's going to be good tomorrow? Or why would I have any confidence that he's going to... Well, you would say because Fran believes in him and all that. Fran believed in Ricky too, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. And I don't know if it is Filardi. I'll make my prediction here. I tend to think we're going to see two quarterbacks, and I don't know who starts, really.
Talk shows on QSportsTalk.com.
Well, they blew up the chicken man in Philly last night.
All right, welcome back into Drive Time. We're going overtime on Drive Time tonight. We already should be done with the show, but this was predictable. We have a lot to discuss. We weren't on yesterday. We're not going to be on tomorrow. Before we leave you here, this could be a long segment if you want it to be. We're going to have fun. We're going to make our prediction for the UNC game tomorrow, our prediction on the quarterback position. And to talk a little bit more about the quarterback position, let's go back to the phone lines. If you want to call in right now, it's 315-437-7644. To kick things off in our final segment, let's go to Nick in Vegas. What's up, Nick?
Hey, Tim. Happy Thursday, buddy. How are you?
Doing well, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. So I got a couple of things that I wanted to kind of just put out there. The last few weeks, on the sideline during timeouts, the two backup quarterbacks have been playing catch with receivers, and it's been Carney and Filardi. Also, during the Georgia Tech game, the camera zoomed in on Ricky on the headset when he came off the field, and the only two other players wearing headsets were Luke and Joe Filardi. So it's been in the making, coming. And Filardi has an unbelievable ratio, 43 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions last year in high school. I know it's high school football. I totally get that.
Yeah.
But I think Fran can see accuracy with him, something that obviously Ricky doesn't have. And I just want to go on the record to say, for Ricky, I don't think it's a physical problem. The kid's got a talented arm. I think he's just mentally out of it. I think maybe the stress of losing the job as a starter from the beginning and all that went through, and then not performing well, and then the media adding to it and the social media and everything, I just think that kind of was like the icing on the cake for him.
I think you're spot on there, Nick. I do think that the biggest thing that Fran Brown is looking for by seemingly making a move tomorrow night at the quarterback position, he just wants a quarterback that can display some confidence right now and maybe exude some confidence down the line to the rest of the roster. I think he owes it to the seniors. He owes it to the rest of the team to at least turn the table over and give another look after what we have seen from Ricky for a month straight. They talk about insanity as doing the same thing over and over. He gave Ricky a long leash. Did he give him a long leash because he just is really loyal to Ricky, or did he know that Luke Carney and Joe Filardi or whoever else is in that quarterback room in competition is not that good? And we're talking about freshmen here. So, yes, the numbers look really good on Joe Filardi. But again, I just can't confidently say that I think Joe Filardi is going to light the world on fire tomorrow, because going into this season, I thought Joe Filardi was QB6, and I think most of us thought Joe Filardi was QB6. When Fran Brown made the comment last week, all of us seem to feel like, and I'm saying all of us kind of generally, a lot of you in the chat and a lot of you that call in, and I see a lot of chatter on social media, people that feel like they have a great understanding of the roster and a great understanding of what everyone's strengths and weaknesses are. Well, all those people thought when Fran Brown said last week that there's another quarterback in the room that could be better than all of them, everyone was saying Rich Beelan and Jakari Williams. No one was guessing Joe Filardi. Now, it seems apparent that it is Joe Filardi based on the comments that have been made since then. And I think we're all in agreement that if another quarterback besides Ricky Collins or Luke Carney steps on the field tomorrow night, most likely that is Joe Filardi. But I went into this year and I thought of Joe Filardi as a lacrosse player who also played football, not a football player who also played lacrosse. I know I'm in the minority because I cover the lacrosse team and I call their games, but I just didn't think we'd be talking about Joe Filardi, the quarterback, very much. And there are people in our chat that are like, who is Joe Filardi? And there's a lot of people out there that have no idea who the heck he is, and they might learn for the first time tomorrow night, and maybe he is good. And maybe he just shows you a little bit more confidence, because Nick is spot on. The biggest thing with Ricky, you could sense it. We could all sense it, that he was anxious. He was nervous out there. He's a guy that honestly just never really inspired much confidence when he was out there at the quarterback position. So my prediction for tomorrow, I think we'll see Luke Carney and Joe Filardi at the quarterback position. I think Luke Carney is a runner when he's out there. I think the package for Luke Carney, like we've seen to this point, is him being mostly a running quarterback. Will Filardi start? That might be where I lean right now, but I don't know. Maybe it's Carney who starts. I think it's pretty clear Fran Brown is going to play multiple quarterbacks. It's pretty clear that Fran Brown is just trying to throw out a different look. I don't know if Fran Brown is awfully confident in this. I don't know if it's going to be that much better than Ricky Collins. And I know some of you out there are hearing that and saying, oh, it can't get any worse, Tim. Yeah, I hear that. And that's why you make this move. And that's why it's worth the shot. And I'm not against making the move. I think it's time to send Ricky on his way, unfortunately, to probably the transfer portal. And Ricky probably is done taking a snap at quarterback for Syracuse. Maybe he will play tomorrow. I think it's pretty clear he's not starting. I think the offense will be a little bit better with a different look at the quarterback position. Maybe there's something to catching UNC off guard a little bit. But right now, my expectation is UNC wins the football game tomorrow. I'm going to say 24-17. I think UNC's improved defensively. And I just can't have a ton of faith in these quarterbacks. I don't think these guys have been wowing Fran in practice. If that was the case, I think we would have seen them out there earlier. I think we would have seen Luke Carney throwing when he was out there for that limited time against Pittsburgh. So we'll probably see two quarterbacks. Maybe we do see Joe Filardi. Maybe he's great. I think Joe Filardi is the more intriguing one to me, because I think Luke Carney is more of the runner. And I think this offense, Jeff Nixon's offense, needs a guy that can get the ball downfield, can throw accurate passes. I'm more optimistic based on what we know of the two quarterbacks that Filardi can be that guy. But I think it's pretty clear that we're going to see two quarterbacks. Maybe we do see Ricky, although it just feels like if you make that move, you probably are done going to Ricky this season. It feels like it's time. I think Syracuse will play a little bit better offensively, but honestly, I don't really have a great feel for it. It's a tough game to predict. And I think if you're out there right now and you are convinced that Joe Filardi or Luke Carney is going to be way better than Ricky Collins, they haven't been better in practice, clearly, or else Fran Brown already would have made that move. So I'm not super optimistic that this is going to totally get Syracuse back on track and they're going to dominate UNC. I hope that's the case. I think we're all pulling for just a win would be nice after what we've seen for the last month from the offense. And just something in terms of a spark from the offense would be an improvement at this point. But if you're asking for a prediction right now, I think we see two quarterbacks. I think Syracuse's offense looks a little bit better. And I think we go into Monday and we all are kind of still confused as to what to do at the quarterback position going forward. I don't think we're going to find a long-term answer for the rest of the season. These guys are freshmen. I'm not going to heap expectations on them tomorrow, but we shall see. It seems pretty clear we're not going to see Ricky Collins start the game tomorrow. So that alone makes this game more intriguing, and there's going to be a lot to react to on our next Drive Time show on Monday. Thanks to Paul for producing. Thanks to all of you in the Q Sports Talk chat. Always fun to talk Orange Sports with all of you. You can always watch back the shows on our YouTube page, Q Sports Talk on the YouTube, and on our Twitch stream, qsportstalk.com. If you ever want to get involved in the chat. Plus, all our episodes go out in audio format on our podcast feed, ESPN Syracuse /Utica Rome. That'll be that for Drive Time this week. We will have Orange Nation tomorrow on a game day, and then me and Adam will be on the air for the Learfield broadcast from the Quad, getting you ready for the action inside the Dome with Matt Park, Adam Terry on the call for the Learfield broadcast tomorrow. Again, a 7:30 kick, 5:30 pregame tomorrow for Learfield, and a 4:30 pregame for Gio and Mike from Shaughnessy's, and you can watch that on qsportstalk.com. We'll talk to you next time on Drive Time.
Did you miss Drive?